Hey guys, it's Lucy. Today I am very excited. We're going to talk about this book. It's called Something Wicked from Japan. Um, the cover caught my attention, and it is a book about ghosts, demons, and yokai. And the type of art form is called Ukiyo-e art. And I searched up a really quick YouTube video that I'll link below that gives some more background on this type of art. So, unbeknownst to me, I've most of us probably already had exposure to ukiyo-e art, which was an art form that really, I think it started and pretty much ended in the Edo period. It's the 36 Scenes from Mount Fuji by Hiroshige, and it has like the really iconic Japanese looking waves, and also of course like all kinds of everyday type of scenery from Japan, and a lot of them have backdrops of Mount Fuji in them. So those wooden blocks is the type of art form that is covered in this book, except the subject matter it is like completely different. So for the cover, I think I found it in the middle somewhere. It's actually it embodies about 25% of the book, which has like a lot of gore factor. It's a lot of violence. There's a huge like shock factor and grotesqueness associated with these ghost type stories. So this one from the cover is actually the ghost of a man who haunts his wife's bedside because she betrayed him and he got killed by her lover. It's very simple. Well, it's really complicated. It's very complicated, but that is the base of the storyline. What I do like about this particular version of, I mean, there are all kinds of yokai books, but this particular version, it's a lot of picture based. So this video is going to be me showing you a lot of pictures from a book, basically. So I hope some of you enjoy that. They have close-ups of the actual art. So this one is a close-up of this kabuki poster here, and sometimes if it's like a really famous or popular play or with like a really famous actor actress, they'll have different versions of the poster. So these two are two versions of the same story and like different enactments. So that's one thing about ukiyo-e art. It's not like a super high-flung, highbrow type of art form. It's really made for the masses. So from these, you can really get a sense of everyday fashion. And I mean, that's like, you know, from the little blurb even in the back talking about the art form, they described it to be what modern day we would call like celebrity Instagrams, tourist guidebooks, and manga. It's really what we would sift through the media today and find on television and internet. But like back in those days, art like that or information really is distributed. Part of it is distributed through this type of art form, like through posters and plays. So I find everything about this book to be very, very detailed. It's highly curated. So it's printed in Japan. The publisher is a Japanese one. I think it's called PEI International. PIE International, and it was published in 2016, and it's written by I Nakao. So I got this book at the Strand, but like if you're Canadian, I just did a quick check and it looks like Chapters even has it on sale. So it's highly accessible. All of these captions are in both English and Japanese, and I find the text to be like just enough not to like bury you, but it gives enough background to give you a sense of what the pictures are trying to illustrate, and more if you wanted to look up actual like legends and fairy tales. So again, like the first 25% of this book is kind of, you know, very scary looking type of thing. This one, it's undated, but it's saying it's from late 18th century. So the good thing about the way that they blow it up is that you see how this is a huge close-up of this, and from the close-up you can really tell the detailed brushwork. Like even though even though this is a very, very simple drawing, but just the ink and brush and the way that it's drawing the hairline and all the little details, it is amazing. Like, I think, yeah, just the amount of detail, and I really appreciate how, again, like, it's blown up in a very in a way that really deserves the attention and calls for appreciation, really. So I like that about the book. But the only cons about the way that it's laid out is that the format, even though it's like just big enough to hold in your hand, say like you're like, I don't know, going to the toilet or like on the bed, it's not so huge to be cumbersome like a lot of art books. But the bad thing is that some of them do have that middle vertical cutoff. So sometimes I think it impacts the way that the illustrations come through. So this one is basically, this is a story of somebody being struck by lightning, and I think this is a true story. So that's been like depicted over and over again. So you lose a little bit of that because of that middle vertical. Same with this. This is the one of the warlords dying from a fever, but like just that middle part is a little bit weird. So, you know, big, huge illustrations where it has like kind of a cross in the middle, you lose a little bit of detail. But sometimes, in a lot of cases, they do reprint in like a more zoomed out version, so you get to see the whole thing. So the first quarter was Ukiyo-e, which I won't go too much into. There's a lot of gore, I think, which appeals to some people maybe, but there are a lot of stories in here as well about, you know, why these ghosts feel the need to come back and haunt people, and that gives us a lot of like context as well in terms of culture, so I find that cool. And then it starts going into other types of monsters. So this is an oni, or like an ogre, and it reminds me of like the heads of the Chinese dragon, you know, like the dragon dance things. So this is pretty cool. And after, like, I think around the middle-ish parts, I didn't realize this at first, there's quite a number of pages on a type of characters, I would say, called Yuju-sushi. So this is what it is in Chinese, and I think it basically means sorcerer or magician, and if you type that like kind of directly in Google Translate, it means shapeshifter. So these are humans, and they have the ability to wield magic, and there's a lot of like stories on that as well. So I find that cool. So it's like, you know, the Japanese version of, I wouldn't say Harry Potter, but let's just say like that kind of realm, magicians. So this is a picture of a kabuki play. This is one of those magician people, and he's doing something about the toads. So the toads seem to be, I just find that really, really creative in a really weird way, because it's, a lot of this is so unexpected. That's what's really cool about fairy tales, or just like the occult from especially another culture. It's like creativity on another level, because you just never imagine that kind of thing to begin with. And this is a toad sage, a toad spirit, and he's doing some sort of magic, turning rocks into toads. Very weird, but very cool. A lot of different types of monsters. So this one is Monster Cat, and in this story, she's wearing like a 12-layer ceremonial robe. So over here, the publisher is doing the same thing, like kind of zooming it up so you can see all the details of the kimono. And I bookmarked this because the story is very odd. So monster cats, they're set to take on human form. They lick the oil in lamps, and they eat people born in the year of the mouse. So this is a famous kabuki play, once again. So cats are a thing, and as we all know already probably, like foxes are another thing. And what's cool about this particular fox is that it appears in Chinese culture, I know that for sure as well, and it also mentions in this book. This is a fox that is said to cross 3 cultures. So it was supposed to have been born in India, and then it later moved to Japan and China, and then later on it got killed in Japan. There's a whole bunch of different series of illustrations related to this nine-tailed fox and its downfall finally in this picture. So it's got like a white face, golden fur, and is supposed to take the form of a beautiful woman, but I don't see a woman in any of these. It's mostly just the fox with a really weird tail. I also marked this because this is a really odd one of skeletons playing ego, and the incredible anatomical detail of the bones and the way that these people are sitting is just, it's very whimsical out of everything else in this book. So okay, so I'm going in order. It might seem like it's going a little jumpy, but I'm just kind of going in order of the markings that I've had. These are the things I kind of wanted to just touch on briefly. So this particular one I marked, it's called the Wedding of the Foxes. So this is supposed to be just like a random woman going to a temple in the middle of the night and coming across a procession of foxes, a wedding procession. So that's a zoomed out version. This is the full version. And again, kind of with the vertical, you lose a little bit, but you can tell like her shock. And this is not just like a random depiction, but it's supposed to be a metaphor for, I think it was like, what was the princess's name? The imperial princess Kazunomiya. So she's part of the imperial family. She was supposed to, and actually did, marry the non-royal shogun. She married into a non-royal family. And at the time, this was a highly, highly unexpected proposal, but one that sort of kind of caught her in the middle of it because there were so many supporters. There was this rift between the imperial family and their waning power and the shogun's family who, you know, I think this is a marriage, totally political marriage for social stability. And so the princess is supposed to be this woman who is just sort of like surprised by all of this, and that's her wedding, kind of in the middle of the night, rushed, smoke and mirrors, not a real, you know, like a, yeah. So that's kind of cool as a cultural sort of reference that we have in this art form. So another one, this is just purely for aesthetic. So the publisher actually chose this one as part of the jacket cover as well. So this one is supposed to be like some random princess basically doing some magic with this heirloom white fox helmet. And this is the zoomed out version of the original kabuki play. And what's cool about this is just the amount of detail on her robes. So it's full of chrysanthemums, and I did a quick check. So in the US, this particular flower, like I think the most common is probably yellow and white, but chrysanthemums are supposed to be symbols of friendship, happiness, and well-being. And in Chinese, this is a very like traditional flower as well, and it references very similar things, happiness and vitality. But only if you Google like in Japan, what does it mean like that? The only difference here besides rejuvenation, wellness, vitality, is actually royalty. So I find that very interesting. Like that could be like a completely other topic. What does, similar creatures or similar like type of things symbolize different things in like different cultures? That could be a very interesting topic to explore. It doesn't have to be yokai based, but that just struck me as very interesting, how even like flowers on a robe, if you like present this in a different culture, that symbolizes a totally different thing. So okay, this one I marked because these are one-eyed goblins. And the first time I looked at this, I thought it was really cute, and it's totally Minions. Does anyone else agree that this is literally like the ancient Japanese version of Minions? Like I love this. So that was really cool. So okay, another heavier type of reference. This one is called False Gods with voices of flies. So you see, I think this is an imperial like princess here shining a mirror on the masses, and these are the shadow parts. So these are all sort of minor yokai, like in their own weird way. They're not really humans, but what this depicts here, this is actually another like cultural metaphor. This is referencing, so yeah, the woman is Princess Inada. This is referencing the reinstatement of the merchant guilds in 1851. So an example of like a merchant guild is probably, I think it mentions here, currency exchangers, which modern day I believe we would call that banks and financial intermediaries. So basically the business class in the Edo period, I think the merchants had a very, very low social standing, but as time grew, as commerce grew, maybe, I don't know, as industrialization kind of loomed nearer and nearer, that class rose up. And I don't know, like there is something here that really resonated with me for some reason, like related to American Gods by Neil Gaiman. You know how the whole fight in American Gods is between the old gods of the old world and the new gods of the continent, which are like, I don't know, like TV personalities, all these like fake, superficial, very appearance slash wealth oriented type of, anyway, you see where I'm going. So this is the voices of flies, especially as well. It reminds me of the way that we are being advertised to today. We're being bombarded by voices from flies. You could say that in a way. They're not really saying anything useful or authentic, really. And yeah, and the text here, the caption, small caption, also mentions the shadow side, which are business owners of more disreputable class. So we're talking brothel keepers, and I imagine like weapons dealers, you know, that kind of thing. So I really like that one. This is from 1851, so right in the middle of the period. Lastly, like I just want to say, like each thing is so different, and the yokais especially, because they draw inspiration from nature. It's not particular, like, you know, to like ghosts. Ghosts are very like subjective to human emotions, so there's nothing too surprising there. It's like grief, it's revenge, it's jealousy, it's love. And the real creation from the yurei, or the ghosts pages, is from that visual shock factor, the way that like the faces are distorted, the eyes are weird, you know, they're like heavy mascara, like no hair, or like swollen eyes, like just big teeth, big grins. Like it's grotesque, that because there's nothing new going on with the actual context or the story. It's the same human storylines that we are sort of just exposed to and vulnerable to. But the yokai aspects, like a yokai takes up like half of this. It's coming from nature. Like you've got giant carp, like this one's like a giant newt, and this one was like a priest, but he turned into like a rat. There's a very interesting story here. And this one is like a hiki monster, which is like a monkey that like kind of lives in the mountains. And even this is like a bat, and people used to think that bats turn into like these giant flying squirrels that haunt people. And also like earth spiders, like snakes, like it's very rich in natural inspiration, which makes it just exponentially more interesting, combined with the visual of it all and the story behind all of it. So yeah, I think this book is extremely this one, the giant centipede. Anyway, so I really, really enjoy delving into the world of yurei and yukai, and just being exposed to some of the like, not present day, but like then the way that things were going, and what was capturing the people's attention back then, which is kind of more interesting than what's capturing like my attention today, which is just like the world is integrating and just falling apart. And lastly, this is one of my favorite Ukiyo-e ones. This is a maid who broke one of her master's plates, and her story is basically that she comes out at night and her ghost counts the plates. It is so weird and so cool, but so sad at the same time. It gives you a sense of the inequality in society back then as well. A maid killed for breaking a plate. And then the horribleness of it, that like she comes back to count plates. Anyway, so that's my spiel on yokai, and particularly this version of the book, which I think is very well done for, like, even though it's an occult, very specialized topic, it could be very daunting to put together. This was extremely well curated. So I really recommend this. If any of that caught your attention, let me know what you think, and have a good day. Bye, guys.